It began with a single sentence. Harmless on the surface, ordinary even, but devastating beneath its glossy, casual delivery. A passing comment that sliced through the fabric of my marriage like a razor. One offhand remark at an office holiday party shattered everything I thought I knew about my wife, and forced me to face a truth I hadn't even considered. It was one of those bone-deep cold December nights in downtown Chicago, where the wind knifes through your coat, and the sidewalks shimmer with ice underfoot. Inside, though, the venue for Sarah's company party was a different world entirely. High above the city, warm and humming with laughter, clinking glasses, and the self-assured confidence of marketing professionals letting loose. The party occupied a penthouse space in the Loop, all glass walls and soft lighting, filled with the kind of people who thrived in networking environments. Sarah insisted I join her this year, said it would be fun. Good for me to meet the people she spent so many hours with. I went not because I wanted to, but because she asked. I'm a software developer, someone who finds more peace in logic and code than in conversation with fast-talking executives. I'm not antisocial, just better suited to quieter spaces. Still, I stood near the bar, sipping a lukewarm beer, making polite small talk with strangers who knew more about my wife's everyday life than I did. I watched her from across the room. She was laughing too loudly at a joke someone told, her hand lightly touching the speaker's arm. Her body language was open, comfortable in a way I hadn't seen in months. That's when a man approached me, someone familiar in the way you remember background actors in your spouse's work stories. He clapped me on the back with an easy, oblivious confidence. Good to see you rolling with it, man, he said, flashing a grin. Sarah said you were cool with her and Dave's little getaway last month. The words didn't register at first. They hit like static, disrupting the signal of my thoughts. I blinked, processing. Dave, getaway. I'm sorry, I said, trying to sound casual even as a chill spread across my chest. What getaway? His grin faltered. His eyes flicked toward Sarah. Oh, the lake house thing. Team bonding or whatever. I thought she said you were chill about it. My heart thundered. I looked across the room again, just as Sarah's expression shifted from laughter to dread. Her eyes locked onto Tom. His name came back to me in that moment, like a puzzle piece snapping into place, and her whole posture changed. The color drained from her face. She excused herself from her group and started toward me, her steps small, unsure. I didn't cause a scene. I didn't yell. I just walked toward the snack table, placed my drink down with too much care, and waited. When she reached me, I turned to her quietly. What's Tom talking about, Sarah? My voice was low, sharp. Who's Dave? What getaway? She froze. For a second, I saw her weighing her options, lie, dodge, confess. Her mask cracked. The polished, confident woman I married began to fracture. Her words stumbled out in a nervous rush. It's nothing, just a mix-up. A work trip. I thought I told you. But her hands trembled, and her eyes begged. Not for forgiveness but for time. For a delay. For a way to keep the truth submerged, just a little longer. I didn't relent. The truth surfaced slowly, fragments pieced together like jagged glass. Dave was a coworker, a senior sales lead with charisma to spare. He was charming in the way that made people lean in. The kind of man who owned every room he entered. During late nights on a big product launch, he and Sarah had grown close, too close. She said it started as support, shared frustrations, mutual stress. Then one night it escalated. A kiss. Then sex. Then again. And again. The so-called team retreat at the lake house? Just the two of them. She told me it was a weekend conference in Wisconsin. I'd even rearranged my schedule to watch Ethan while she was gone. That detail hit the hardest. I could still see his little stuffed dinosaur sitting on the back seat, where he'd left it after daycare. His car seat behind me felt like a silent witness to my unraveling life. The innocence of his world made the betrayal feel sharper, more obscene. I left without another word. No yelling, no accusations. I walked out into the icy Chicago night, and let the cold bite into my skin as I drove home in silence. The city lights blurred as I stared through the windshield, trying to hold myself together. That night, I slept on the couch. Sarah tried to speak, to explain, to apologize, but her voice felt far away, like it was echoing from the bottom of a well. I couldn't process it. I stared at the ceiling, eyes dry but burning, while memories replayed in my mind like a film I could no longer stand to watch. For days after, I moved like a ghost, going through the motions of life, but with everything muted, dulled, empty. The house still smelled like her perfume. Ethan's laughter still filled the halls, but the foundation beneath it all had cracked. And it all started with a single sentence. I kept moving mechanically. I went to work. I made breakfast. I packed Ethan's lunch. I read his bedtime stories, smiled when he smiled. But inside, I was unraveling one silent thread at a time. The weight of betrayal sat in my chest like wet cement. And every moment of pretending to be okay just pressed it in deeper. Eventually, I couldn't pretend anymore. I hired a lawyer. When I told Sarah I wanted a divorce, her composure shattered. She wept. She pleaded. She talked about the stress, the loneliness, the pressures of work, the distance between us. She reached for anything that might undo what she had done. But there was no excuse in the world strong enough to build a bridge back from that kind of betrayal. She hadn't just made one mistake. She'd made a series of deliberate choices, over and over, each one driving another nail into the coffin of our marriage. So I left. I found a modest apartment not far from our old house. Close enough for Ethan's school, familiar parks, the grocery store. I took him with me most days. I gave him the bigger bedroom and set up a little bed for him beside mine until he felt safe in his own space. I filled the room with his favorite toys, hung his artwork on the walls, and tried my best to create a version of stability out of the fragments I had left. But the truth is, nothing felt normal. Nothing was normal. One chilly evening, I bundled him into his coat and hat and took him to the park near our old street. The sun was slipping behind the buildings, casting long, golden shadows across the ground. Ethan raced ahead, laughing as he made a beeline for the swings, his feet crunching the frosted grass. He was radiant, untouched by the emotional wreckage left in our wake. As I stood there, watching him soar back and forth, I felt a presence beside me. I didn't need to turn to know who it was. Sarah. Her eyes were red-rimmed, the skin beneath them puffed from too many nights without sleep. She stood stiffly, hands buried in the deep pockets of her coat, like she was bracing herself against more than the cold. There was something unfamiliar about her, smaller somehow. Not physically but in presence. Deflated. I just wanted to see him, she said softly. Her voice cracked at the edges. I miss you both. I didn't answer right away. I didn't have the strength to say anything kind. And I didn't want to say anything cruel. Instead, I sat down on the nearest bench, and after a moment she joined me. We didn't talk to fix things. We weren't there to rewind the clock, or pretend the last few weeks hadn't happened. We were just two people sitting in the wreckage of something we once thought was unbreakable, trying to understand how we'd ended up here. As Ethan's laughter rang through the crisp air, we talked about him. About co-parenting, about creating structure and stability, about protecting his joy from the fallout of our pain. We spoke slowly, deliberately, careful not to reopen wounds, but not tiptoeing around them either. And in that quiet conversation something shifted. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a kind of clarity, a raw, difficult acceptance. Tom's careless comment had cracked my life wide open. It tore down the illusion I'd built around my marriage. It destroyed the version of Sarah I thought I knew. But it also forced something honest into the space where lies had lived. In its brutal aftermath, it revealed a path forward, uncertain, painful, but real. Sarah and I never got back together. That chapter had closed. But we began counseling, not as spouses hoping to reconcile, but as co-parents trying to raise a little boy who still saw the best in both of us. Maybe in a way we did it for Ethan. Maybe we did it for the parts of ourselves that still wanted to be whole, even in the shadow of everything we'd lost. And as the city lights blinked to life around us, reflecting off cracked sidewalks and the beginnings of something new, I realized something I hadn't seen before. Sometimes, the hardest truths are the ones that finally set you free.